Hi, and welcome to whatever this might turn into. So my name's Pete. I'm a shipwright and woodworker up in Port Townsend, Washington. This video is from a work trip I did with a group of other shipwrights from Washington State up to Alaska to work on a pair of fishing boats used in the Bristol Bay region as fish tenders or packers. These are larger vessels hired out to canneries that transit out to the fishing grounds to purchase and unload fish so that the smaller fish boats don't have to travel all the way back to town to unload their catch at the cannery. These boats also serve as a little supply barge where they can store nets, get ice, get a few provisions, restock their boats. You may notice that some of the work in this video is quite the opposite of a lot of the boat building channels that are already on YouTube. This is real kind of hack and whack, meat and potatoes shipwright work. I very much want to highlight this type of work to show people what it's really like being a day-to-day shipwright. It's not always fine woodworking on classic yachts. We do often work on old, cobbled together fishing vessels. A forewarning, this is my very first attempt at making a YouTube video, so please bear with the production quality and sound engineering and all that. I am, after all, a simple wood butcher. For some of you folks that recognize me for my role and character on a couple other YouTube boat building channels who may be dying to know what I've been up to in the last 2 years, especially since I left the Tally-Ho project with Sampson Boat Co. I put together a short slideshow that's going to be at the very end of this video to highlight some of the projects I've worked on in and around my shop in the Port Townsend boatyard. So stick around for that, and I hope you enjoy this video from my work trip in Alaska. Contracted to do 9 days of work on this trip, so we were very careful not to bite off more than we could chew. The scope of work essentially turned into making some deck repairs on the foredeck of the Beaver and some starboard side hull repairs on the Penguin. The work that was needed on the starboard side of the Penguin included removing all of the sacrificial cladding. These are 3x12 timbers stacked up on the side of the boat to protect it against pilings and other boats when it's side tied. Most of these boards were rotten all the way through, and we had to remove them to get to the planking underneath to make necessary repairs and also reef and recork the seams in the planks. We of course found a couple rotten ends on these timbers. framing underneath the decking that needed to get replaced or reinforced. This involved removing the anchor windlass, 2 large mooring cleats, tearing up a swath of rotten deck strakes, and replacing sections of the longitudinal bulkheads underneath that, replacing the deck, recorking that deck, and then putting some of the deck hardware back into place. As opposed to boats with much finer lines, the decking on these boats runs athwartship or side to side. So does the bottom planking. Now inside the boat, there's a series of X bracings to add rigidity to the hull. So in essence, these barges are built more akin to a bridge than a boat. However, they do go through the water and not over the water. They're still subject to all the same building techniques of any other boat. They are in effect a pretty simply built wooden barge with a large open work deck, a wheelhouse set aft with crew accommodations and a galley. They're usually outfitted with a pair of picking booms or cranes to on and offload cargo. Let's face it, they look like a shoebox with a wheelhouse on top. They were originally produced in various shipyards along the Northwest United States for use by the Army during the Second World War. Now they originally carried names BSP followed by a number. That BSP stood for Barge Self-Propelled. They were called powered barges or power scows. Shortly after the Second World War, these boats were sold off as surplus and bought up by various fish canneries all along the Alaska coastline. There are still quite a few in use today, serving as fish tenders, just like these 2 boats. Now, these smaller 75-foot power scows all tend to have cute animal names. Well, maybe not cute. There's one called the walrus, the porpoise, the dolphin, the otter, the sea lion, and then these 2, the beaver and the penguin. If you've done any extensive boating or cruising in the Northwest United States or in Alaska, there's a good chance you've seen one of these vessels out on the water. So here Lachlan and Greg are corking the foredeck of the Beaver. Now some of you may have seen this before. It is the act of threading in strands of cotton and then oakum, which is a hemp fiber saturated with pine tar, into the seams between planks to ensure water tightness. After these fibers are threaded in and made down hard, the seam is topped up with hot pitch. Now this same technique is done to the sides and bottom planking, but the seams are then topped up with a mixture of fibered roof tar and Portland cement as opposed to hot pitch. On vessels with planking this thick, we often utilize a technique that we call beetling or horsing or hawsing. It is a two-person job to harden up the cotton and oakum in the seams. As you can see here, one person holds the hawsing or horsing iron and the other person swings the beetle mallet. As a matter of fact, on boats this big, there's a lot of jobs that are two-person jobs. Here is Lee and I. Sounds like one person's name, Lee and I. Here, Lee and I are drilling very, very long holes all the way from the decking to the bottom of the outermost skeg to fasten the new planking I installed. In addition to these vertical bolts that go through the entire hull side, there are horizontal bolts that go into interior framing. After the new planks were fully installed and all the recorking was done, we got to work recladding the side of the boat with new 3-inch thick timbers. These are bedded with a generous layer of hot tar and Irish felt paper and then fastened into those heavy hull planks. We've run them wild and just trimmed them down with a chainsaw.
get us to the airport tomorrow.
Just gotta get to the airport.
Just kidding, I gotta live in this thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
For next fishing starts.
Yeah.
The great thing about a lot of this heavy timber work is it usually doesn't have to be precise. As you can see here, we do most of our finishing touches simply with a chainsaw, and that's good enough for the fish. Some of the final things to do were trim up the ends of our boards, put a little bit of spot corking on the bottoms of both of the boats, while Martin and Joe did most of the metal work. Now that was wrapping the chines on the very front and the very back of the boat with a steel corner and the front corners of the deck. If you made it this far through the video, thank you so much. I do hope you enjoyed watching all of our work. Like I said, this is my first attempt at making a video. I do hope to do more of them. I am going to be experimenting a little bit with editing style and content. I would like to get into some more detailed technical woodwork. I do also do some finer woodwork projects like furniture building. I have a blacksmith timber frame shed I want to build at home. I might make a video on that. If you have any suggestions on things you might want to see on this channel, please feel free to comment below. And of course, the usual spiel, please like this, share it, subscribe. Stay tuned here for future videos. I'm going to try to be releasing videos at least on a monthly basis. Anyway, that's it for now, unless you want to stick around for the slideshow.